I get this type of comment fairly frequently, and it's rather annoying, and I've always found it one of the most annoying kind of comments. Nothing against this particular person, but the motivation behind it and the connotation behind it is really what is troublesome to me, because the narrative of this page is really from the perspective of the family. Now, not just the spouse, and then you have parents who might have a alcoholic child, or children who have an alcoholic parent. Whatever the situation, it kind of dismisses all of that and what the family goes through. But I'm going to read it like this. So it goes, I think it's sad to talk about her, my wife, without her side of the story. And if this is the first time seeing me, well, I was married for 25 years and my wife passed away from alcohol use disorder a little over 4.5 years ago. Now, that may not be the motivation of this particular person, but a lot of people have the connotation, and I get DMs, and a lot of people further the conversation and say, well, it must have been the spouse's fault, must have been my fault, or whatever the situation is. And that's especially troublesome. And the thing is, the conversations that I have and the narrative of this page really opens up a can of worms for a lot of people. And unfortunately, people, women mostly, honestly, about 99% have this kind of attitude that respond like this, is that, you can only see from one's vantage point, from one's own life experiences. And so many people project their own experience onto the situation that I've talked about with my wife. And it's extremely unfair, and it doesn't apply. I'll go over it again. My wife suffered from, she had a hereditary issue. She grew up in a family culture where drinking was normalized, and she had some trauma when she was about 16, which I've gone over to some degree, and that you can go over more in her memoir, which is called Amanda, A Cautionary Tale of Alcoholism. These are all things that happened to her long before I met her. And looking back, I was woefully ignorant. I did not understand. And the thing is, people bring baggage into a marriage. And sometimes, certainly in myself, I was innocent of alcoholism. I had not grown up in that world. My parents didn't drink. My dad barely did. My mother never had touched the stuff. And I didn't grow up in a world where alcohol was normalized. So I was woefully unprepared. And one of the reasons why I address this is because Amanda is speaking, okay? She passed away from alcohol use disorder after 7 rehabs, multiple outpatient facilities, psych holds, unbelievable. Dozens of hospital stays, emergency stays, 911 calls. So much effort went into saving her. And the thing is, at the end of the day, the person has to save themselves. So what was going on inside her to not allow for that? And I think it just overcame her. It got too much for her. She suffered from depression and then a number of physical ailments. She had many surgeries on her ankle from a high school injury. She eventually had to have both her knees replaced, and she had gastric bypass surgery, which I don't think helped her at all. She did lose a tremendous amount of weight. Her thyroid had stopped in her 20s, which, unfortunately, any caloric intake she took in just packed on the pounds eventually. She was able to lose a lot of weight, but it blew out her knees. And she had a lot of physical problems as well that, attributed to her drinking. To cover up the pain, and then there was prescription medications. There was a lot of things that went on with her. But again, sobriety, and I have to say this, is 100% the responsibility of the person who has the disease, period. Okay? You can't blame it on family. You can't blame it on anybody else. No one is making you do what you do. And if you have to make it a priority. If you're growing up in a family that is the problem, move. Okay? If you don't like your job, or the stress from your job is making you drink, quit. Get another job. There's no excuse. If you go to an AA meeting and you don't like the AA meeting, well, maybe go to a different type of meeting like Smart Recovery or Women for Sobriety, or maybe go to a local organization. People are so filled with excuses. People concentrate on what won't work and they need to concentrate on what will work. And at the end of the day, that's the responsibility of the alcoholic. So at the end of the day, I speak for the family members of the alcoholics because it's a voice that's not often heard, and it's one that is just as important as the alcoholic. It's a family disease. And it's not just about, there's always so much focus on the alcoholic, and unfortunately the people in that person's life are suffering just as much, if not more. They're often the ones that have to pick up the pieces and save the person on top of saving themselves. It's a horrible position for family members to be in, and unless you have lived that and been through that situation, in many ways, there's no way you could possibly understand. And if you want a more in-depth version of what I do on TikTok, again, her book is called Amanda, A Cautionary Tale of Alcoholism. We released it last week. You can actually pick up a pre-order copy. Go to the link tree in my bio, go to the website, it's the third one on the bottom, and then the PayPal link will open up as soon as you open up the website. You can go to the website, find all kinds of pictures. You can go to the gallery, for example. We got 30, 40 pictures in there. I have podcasts, television interviews. I mean, I've been doing this all over the world. I've spoken all over the world. And it's important. It's an important subject because I think the family is just as important as the alcoholic. Absolutely. Again, I go live Monday through Friday right around 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And again, we have the Facebook group called There's an Alcoholic in the Family. Link is in the bio, as is when you're ready to work with me one-on-one. I have the complete coaching program. Again, links in the bio. Thanks so much for listening.